Well, viewers, the world's number one military aviation historian and analyst has determined that India probably hit nuclear infrastructure in Pakistan, especially nuclear storage facilities in Pakistan, which made the nation throw in the towel, that this was not an accident, but a deliberate, calculated, precision strike aimed at degrading Pakistan's capacity. Now, viewers, the speculation abounds, even though, and in first viewers, and then I want to open this up and I want to bring in some other analysis around this question.
Thank you for telling us that Kirana Hill houses some nuclear installation. We did not know about it. Okay. And we've not hit Kirana Hills, whatever is there. Okay. I did not brief in my briefing yesterday.
We haven't hit Kirana Hills. In fact, viewers, you heard the DGM. Well, let's open this up to our panel also. He says that, thank you for telling me that there is a nuclear storage facility in Kirana Hills. So I want to first begin with Mr. Sibal. Mr. Sibal, the Prime Minister says that we have called Pakistan's nuclear bluff. Now, I've never heard of a nuclear power being hit at home in this manner, in a conventional conflict at least. There's no parallel. And correct me if I'm wrong, sir. Would you agree
that excuse my saying so, but we have a parallel in the case of NATO, Ukraine, and Russia.
But Ukraine is not a nuclear power. It was defanged.
No.
So the problem with Ukraine was it lost its nuclear weapons. It had to give them up.
The backers of Ukraine are all nuclear powers, and they have been fueling and funding the Ukrainians. They're giving them more and more arms, more deadly arms. They oversaw the incursions.
Okay, but let's be. I mean, look, there is no parallel. We've gone into a nuclear power. It's not as if America has landed up in Russia and done damage, or NATO has done it, or even Ukraine has done it.
Anyway, I mean, let's not get deflected from.
There are, of course, you will say then there was a Russia, China, a little conflagration in the 70s, etc., etc. But again, what I'm trying to say here is a sustained operation, military operation against a nuclear power where one nuclear power goes in and inflicts this kind of damage. Now, I haven't seen this.
The point why I raised this Ukraine thing was not because I was in any way disputing what you said. What I meant is that we have seen how nuclear powers on the West, cognizant of the fact that Russia is a very formidable nuclear power, are willing to take the risk because they've come to the conclusion that unless they pose an existential threat to Russia, Russia will not use nuclear weapons.
Okay. So we probably...
This has given us the space to take action against Pakistan because we are not there to destroy Pakistan as a country.
Sure. So let me just pose my question, Mr. Sibal, because this is important. Now, would you agree we've rewritten the doctrine of war as it exists between nuclear dyads? Could we at least say that?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
And more importantly, because Pakistan, not now, but all through, has in the very first instance threatened us with nuclear retaliation. This time also. They keep reminding us and the world that Pakistan is a nuclear weapon state. South Asia has nuclear weapons, and this is a danger, not only to the region but to the world, because this is a flashpoint for a nuclear war. This is the narrative that the West has also been promoting. That the most dangerous area in the world today in terms of a nuclear conflict is South Asia. Therefore, in this background, for India then to expose this myth that we cannot fight a conventional war because Pakistan threatens to use nuclear weapons, that myth has been exposed. And we have found that space beneath the nuclear overhang to deal with Pakistan in an extremely robust manner. And the fact that we were able to deal with their air defense system effectively and actually hit their major air bases is remarkable. And Pakistan has not been in a position to react. So we have carved out space for ourselves. And you're right that in future also, Pakistan would have to think twice before they provoke India, knowing that India now will act very robustly, and a new paradigm is very clear that we will hit back and we'll consider any act of terrorism as an act of war, and that we will not distinguish between the government, between the state and the non-state actors. In our eyes, they are one.
So you believe that we've imposed a certain degree of deterrence now on Pakistan? Would you go that far?
If General Munir is sensible and the Pakistani establishment is sensible and they've drawn the right lessons, you are absolutely right.
Okay.
But I'm not very sure that these bigoted Islamic diehards will learn the right lesson, because learning the right lesson would actually mean that the position of the Pakistani armed forces in the country's governance would be deeply affected. And that might then trigger physicalist tendencies in Pakistan and may result in actually potential breakup of Pakistan. It'll mean a complete change of governance in Pakistan. And they're not ready for it. Now, whether now or in 6 months or 1 year or 2 years, they come back and start playing the old game when memories have faded away, and when in the meantime, they have seen where their deficiencies were,
right,
and have bought armament from China or from wherever else, to fill those gaps, they may take the risk again. You never know.
Okay, you never know. You never know. So, General Pandey, if our victory was so comprehensive, as we are now obviously being confronted with through these evidence that we've collected, why do you believe that we didn't press home the advantage? Or would that have led to some sort of a catastrophic, mutually assured, destructive outcome? Or do you believe that there wasn't any space for this kind of complete state subjugation?
Okay, Rahul, a couple of points. No? On your very channel, I think I have been possibly isolated by voices which wanted to press home, and maybe I was the only military person who was talking something else. From day one, right? From day one, I have been telling that there is, when you cross into the kinetic domain or any domain for engagement, you always have a mission which is planned, and then you cater for contingencies of escalation, right? Engagement, increase, and everything. So when the Prime Minister tells the country and inter alia the armed forces that your objective is to neutralize, destroy the infrastructure, perpetrators of Pahalgam, he is very, very clear. He has not said that destroy Pakistan army, which is behind. He just mentioned that line. Those orders come resonating very clear, and that is what was done. So once you have done your mission, right, to now press home unnecessarily is surely not a way a responsible nation works, right? So there is one part. There is nothing about nuclear bogey. You look at all the time what we have done. We have ensured that escalation ladder is in control. When you are dealing with a radical organization such as Pakistan terror state, you have to be prepared for any risk. But again, I look at it as a very calculated risk. We possibly knew when we are going what is the state of their economy, what is the state of their equipment, military equipment. We all know virtually 50% of their equipment was either on down, or the rest were Chinese make, which possibly the Chinese also don't trust, right? So these were possibly our advantages, because if you're planning for a full-fledged war to finish, Rahul, it is not a joke. You don't go in 15 days' time. It requires a very comprehensive preparation, not only of military force, but it also takes a comprehensive preparation of a geopolitical environment, the geostrategic environment, the geo-economic environment. All those things have to come into play, right? It can't be on an emotional burst that something has happened. It was drastic what happened. But certainly you can't go for a war in that manner.
And that's
So I
why
think that
perhaps,
is a
General
really
Pandey,
sensible
we haven't announced a ceasefire. We've only said that this is a pause to assess whether we've had
Yeah.
a deterring
Yeah,
effect. And if you cross the Rubicon, there will be all out.
Rahul, I'll just...
Yeah.
Yeah. The second point, I just want to deliberate again a little bit. On 6th of May, I was giving a major seminar, this thing, and I was asked this question again on the nuclear bluff. On your channel, you have asked me on this nuclear bluff. The fact of the matter is that we know in the armed forces that the nuclear bluff is only a bluff. Nowhere. It is an academic environment. It is in different environment of discussion that people have talked of nuclear. We have war games scenario after scenario.
Okay.
Because we are sure, right? When the Air Force DGMO says, thank you for informing, there's a sly smile on him, right? We exactly, why we know all their installations? Because their installations are known, nuclear installations are known to the Chinese, they are known to the Americans, and therefore, it is known to a large section of the world. There is nothing much hidden in that little box, which they call Pakistan, which is an artificial country. On one side, they got a lake. On the other side, they got mountains. On the place where they're looking at the strategic depth, they got Afghans, Talibans who hate themselves. They hated them when they were helping, they were being held by the Pakistanis. People started thinking, this question was asked to me when I was the corps commander, that Taliban is getting now free from the Americans, Taliban fighters will come. I have made it on a public space, making a statement that the Talibanis hate Pakistanis as much as they like us.
In fact,
There's
sir,
a total
we will be
difference
speaking
because they
to,
know
in the last part of this show, we are going to be speaking to an Afghan separatist, let me tell you, who is leading the resistance against Pakistan. And that's going to be a fascinating conversation. Viewers, we'll be just bringing that conversation to you. Yes, General Pandey, finish your point. Then I want to open this up to Major Jolly. And
so the last point I'll just, the last point which I want to make you, while this operation, again, I'm trying to put a word of caution. We get very gung-ho and jingoistic with the success. And you remember, I made this mention that victories need to be sustained.
Yes.
Their deterrence is there between two sensible nations. But when a nation is being led by a radical, rabid leader who makes a statement in front of the foreign patriot, the Pakistani repatriates or the people who had come to be addressed, and he talks of a different sense. Their DGISPR is led by a family whose father was a designated terrorist himself.
Yes.
Right. The entire top leadership today is a Ziaul Haq product because they came when radicalization of Pakistan army was institutionalized, So when you have this kind of a people who are willing to go, the point being that you can't trust that next strike will come when. You can deter. This guy is going to come barking back again at the cost of annihilation of his country, right? Till the time the strategic orientation, the civilian government actually comes onto power to say that you are going to rein in this animal is something not very correct. So
well, let me tell you, viewers, that might actually happen in the very near future because the Pakistani army has lost face. And their sole claim to relevance has been that they are the guardians of Pakistan's territorial integrity. And under them, you can see, viewers, how that has been violated. Just look at these pictures. And I want to bring in Major Jolly. Major Jolly, what happened actually at Kirana? How close did we come to Pakistan's nuclear assets? It's a question that is not going away. I mean, even General Pandey said that, he said it with a smirk, that we didn't hit, and that, thank you for telling us that there are nuclear weapons stored there, etc., etc. So someone's bluffing somebody. The visual evidence, we're seeing this plume of smoke from those hills, from those very hills. And this is not us. These are Pakistani residents saying, Kirana Hills mein एक बम फटा है या दो बम फटे हैं and it's looking very, very bad for us. So, can you explain? There was also, by some coincidence, I think, an earthquake?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, Rahul. So what I think is that if you review it objectively, on one side there is a coy smile by Air Marshal Bharti. On the other side, you have a lot of data, right? Firstly, the moment I see it this way, the moment we hit Sargodha, we were trying to, disable their capability to take the nuclear assets off because we know. So here's one thing we have to understand that whenever we say this, the most common discussion that happens is that if Pakistan strikes one, वो हमारा एक शहर पे कर देंगे, we will finish off the country. Fine, that's a logic. But the point is the strength with India lies is we will not let them fire even one. That is our strength, and which we have proven in last few days that even if you think of moving your assets, we will destroy that asset, that runway, that storage, that capability will be demolished. And that is what we want to assure Indians. We want to tell the world also that we will not let them take off. So I think this is what was at display. Again, nobody is officially confirmed, but if I see it that way, once Sargodha runway was taken out, after that these guys would have wanted to move their nuclear asset as part of their bluff because they know very well that the moment they move these assets, US is watching, India is watching, so they are like that pamper tantrum throwing kid that if you don't give me what I want, I will do this. And immediately that is when US would have moved in towards Pakistan, told them don't do it. And that is when, if at all, India would have hit a strike just to tell them we see you, we can hit you here also, we can hit you wherever we want, so calm down. And the proofs of that are, one, like everybody, it was common chatter on social media and media, the 350 AR flight which people misunderstood that US especially sent. Actually, it was purchased by Pakistan in 2012, so it is with them. They use it for counter-insurgency ops and all. It used the aerial monitoring system, and the data is shared by the US Department of Energy to review how much is the nuclear radiation. So in that moment, it was doing that. Secondly, another valid point which I do trust is that Derek Grossman, the ex-CIA who works with Rand Corporation, he tweeted, radioactive radiation is leaking. He's not a man who would generally, he's pro-Pakistani very much, so he would not make this statement if this was not true, right? And thirdly, apart from the plumes of smoke and videos from civilians and all the data that was on social media, the third most important thing is that Egypt Air Force plane that came with boron-10 isotope. This is a special kind of isotope which is available in bulk in Nile Delta, and so Egypt sent it, and Egypt even informed India about it, as there was a tweet by External Affairs Minister Jaishankar that he spoke to Egyptian guys. So I think all these, again, a very objective review of the thing. If you put these indicators in place, yes, we would have hit them, and that hit would have been a more of an indicative. It would have been more of a suggestive that guys don't do this because we will not let you take off. And if we strike you within your home, this is going to blast here, and you're going to suffer very badly and have whole lot of millions of people dying. So I think that's where our strength and capabilities lies. But again, on the other side is the coy smile by Air Marshal Bharti. So it is for everybody's own assessment.
No wonder that Tom Cooper did confirm the thesis that is now being presented by Major Jolly and said that there is a lot of indications that we did actually hit a nuclear storage center. Now, viewers, of course, all of this will constantly be discussed, but Air Marshal VPS Rana is there with us. Air Marshal, how central is Sargodha to the Pakistan nuclear command structure, sir?
Very, not only in Sargodha, I'll just say for all the airfields are very, very carefully chosen. Every single airfield has a strategic importance, and particularly Sargodha, Noor Khan is very, very central to their nuclear apparatus. So signaling was very, very clear that, listen, we have a very, very strong intelligence on every actions that you do on ground, and we will hit you at our will. And when we have hit Noor Khan and Sargodha, these are two, jewel crown as far as they are concerned. Sargodha has the aircraft which can, deliver these nuclear capable missiles. They have their other command and control setup, very, very strong AD setup. So is in Noor Khan. Noor Khan, you have discussed enough that it's very close. Then we struck there, and I would go for the time being with the DZ Air Ops that we didn't know what is there in Kirana. But the fact was that we hit it so close, and it was a signaling that if we wish, we can go a few miles further up and cook up your entire storage, that whatever you have. So I think from that sense, while all our strikes were made at tactical level, but each strike had a very, very deep strategic implication. So this is a very typical warfare in that sense, that you have undertaken a classical air operations, which is graduated from hitting at initial stage only the terrorist target, then hitting the air defense systems, and then since the message was not received well and proper, we had no choice but to indicate that we are in the serious business of war, and we mean what we are saying. So it is high time that you need to do this.
Okay, well, this is a very interesting conversation we've had, viewers. We leave it at this. Thank you very much.
Network 18 decimates Times Internet with over 6 times more unique users on social media. Network 18, the undisputed leader of news networks, way ahead of the times.